Hi, today we're here with Mr. Shah. Mr. Shah teaches entrepreneurship at the JSON, which is Navy Junior School of Management. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rajiv Shah. I've been teaching here since 2008. So it's been about 17 years, and I spent about 30 years in corporate America before that. I'm having a ball teaching here last 17 years.
Okay. So Mr. Shah, what does being an entrepreneur mean to you today?
So being an entrepreneur to me means being able to identify an unmet need, being able to recognize what that is, finding a unique solution to it, and then being able to take it all the way to commercialization. That is an entrepreneur.
Okay. So what's one mistake you often see new entrepreneurs make early on?
So the one most common mistake that I've seen a number of entrepreneurs make is they do not do enough customer validation. They are much more focused on their technology and their solution rather than understanding what the customer need is.
Yeah. So what do you think is like the best way to do market research or to understand how a customer wants?
Well, the best way to do market research is to go out and actually talk to customers, show them your MVP, show them if it meets their unmet need, and get some of that feedback from them, and then keep refining it until you find a solution that actually matches their needs.
So what separates someone with an idea from someone who actually becomes a founder?
So everybody has ideas, okay,
Mhm.
but being able to take the idea and being action oriented, doing something about it, and executing on it, and staying with it, and getting the having the focus and the motivation to go and be able to sell it all the way to customers and to investors. That is what separates somebody with an idea from somebody who's an entrepreneur.
So you would say execution is the most important.
Execution and being a good salesperson. You got to be able to sell the idea to both investors and also to to others who will be joining his or her team. So it's important to be able to sell the idea as well.
Okay. So what makes innovation inside a big company so much harder than innovation inside a startup or a smaller company?
Well, there's a significant amount of difference, and there's also a lot of similarities. But the biggest difference really is the fact that to innovate inside a large company, you had to be very sensitive to what the company's strategy, their core competencies, their interest, their direction is, and you have to stay within those confines. And also, you have to be cognizant to the various organizations within the corporation and their equities and their interests and the associated politics that goes with that.
Hmm, okay. So what's the biggest myth about entrepreneurship that needs to go away today?
Well, this thing is something I come across all the time. The biggest myth is that entrepreneurs are born, not made later.
Mhm.
And I would seriously disagree with that because this is entrepreneurship is something you can learn and develop. And this is why we have programs like ours. We train people to become entrepreneurs.
Do you think there's like a specific value that you can get from a college in terms of entrepreneurship compared to doing it by yourself outside of college?
Yeah, I mean, when you do it outside by yourself on your own, you're doing it by the seat of the pants and you are not really structured thinking about it, in terms of how you go about doing it. Now, of course, so somebody may inherit a business and I may have learned on the job from somebody that he or she inherits the business from. But when you're starting something from scratch altogether, I mean, you got to know the basics of how to go about doing it and the various things that you need to look at to be able to do it well.
Okay. So do you think entrepreneurs need to raise money before starting a venture or can they start lean?
Well, first of all, most entrepreneurs, if they're going to try and raise money at some point, the investors are going to want to know that has some skin in the game. So, first of all, having some skin in the game is important. But beyond that, I think they can start lean. And as they achieve more and more milestones along the way, then they can start thinking of raising money when the valuation of the company goes up.
Do you have like an example of when a company that you know started lean or?
Oh, there's so many examples. I mean, I'm kind of hard pressed to pick one right now, but I mean, most companies do start out lean. I mean, just about every company you can go and look at. I can't give you specific names at this point, but you can go look at any company. They have to start out lean. Nobody's going to invest money in an idea which has not been proven. So you got to prove the idea, get customer validation. You got to demonstrate, have some proof of concept, and all of that takes some being lean for a while, and then until you go through all those steps, nobody's going to invest any money in it. And if they do, the valuation will be such that they're going to pretty much own the company. You don't want to do that.
Okay. So if you had 60 seconds to talk to your younger self before your first venture, what would you tell them?
Well, one of the things I learned along the way in my 30 years in corporate life is to be a good listener, to listen to other people. And the other thing I've learned along the way is, you know, while we stress and focus on execution and being action oriented, you cannot do that. Cannot be entirely focused on that at the expense of people's on your team, their personal needs and their desire to take care of those activities as well. And you cannot do that at the expense of just trying to meet your objectives and goals.
Okay. So how's teaching entrepreneurship at UT Dallas shaped your own views on innovation and startups?
Well, this goes back to your earlier question, right? I mean, if you don't learn these things, in a structured fashion, then that's kind of where I was, right? I never really took any course in entrepreneurship, and I was doing my MBA. We didn't have any of those courses back then. And so, what I learned about entrepreneurship is kind of on-the-job training in my corporate life. That said, when I teach it, I, I will teach it in a much more structured fashion for the others. And as a result, I've kind of learned a lot more about it than I did before when I was doing it, on the job.
Okay. So what key skills or mindset do you try to instill in students and cultivate for them to succeed as entrepreneurs or corporate leaders?
The skill set that I try to instill in students, whether they are entrepreneurs in small startups or or in large companies, is being able to be sensitive to the unmet needs that are out there, being able to be observant enough to notice them, and then being able to act on them to be able to develop the solutions for it, and then kind of staying with it all the way till you actually, so having the persistence, the motivation to do all of those things. All of those things are important. You cannot become an entrepreneur without that motivation and the desire to stick with it and the patience to go all the way through with it.
So how would you develop those three skills: motivation, discipline, and commitment? Or is that something you can develop, or is it mostly just how interested you are?
Well, like I said before, I think all these skills can be developed, but they also can be taught, and you got to communicate to younger folks that, hey, you got to have the motivation to do these things. You got to have the discipline to stay with it, and and the persistence to take it all the way.
Okay. So how do you incorporate your industry experience into your teaching at the Norwegian School of Management?
Well, like I was saying earlier, now basically I have been through a lot of these kind of situations, but I've been in those situations without having structured discipline education surrounding that. And so the thing I communicate to students is some of the stories, some of the anecdotes that I come across in my own personal life that kind of pertain to some of the things I'm teaching. And so, especially in my course on technology and new product development, I have lots and lots of stories I share with my students, and they can then relate to that much better than they would be relating to it otherwise.
So how should a startup prepare differently compared to established corporations when they're entering strategic partnerships?
So the biggest lesson learned, and I've kind of learned that through my own experience as well as reading about it during my teaching career, and that is when small companies engage with large companies, they have to be very cognizant and be sensitive to, and fully understand and appreciate the motivation of why the large company wants to partner with them. And it is not for altruistic reasons. It's not for charitable reasons. They have a specific interest, and in trying to meet those interests, the small company has to make sure that they're protecting their own interests, both in terms of and the intellectual property, especially, and doing that in a proper legal manner, so that the legal document between the two companies is fully vetted and fully accounts for all the specific details that they want to protect on their own side.
Yeah, I think bigger companies have a reputation that they have to uphold, and they also have a lot of restrictions. So smaller companies, they don't have all that, so they can be as free as they want when they're building something.
Or they can be free as they want, but at the same time, if they're engaging with a large company as a partner, you have to be sure that you, as a small company, are protecting your interests. Again, I can give lots of examples of that from my own personal career, where I was part of a large company and I was engaged with a small company. The small companies produce legal documents that we had to sign, which spelled out every little contingency very clearly. And this way, the small companies are protecting their own interests, commercial interests, as well as their intellectual property.
Okay. So, how do you approach mentoring the next generation of entrepreneurs or executives?
Well, the way I approach it is, first of all, listening to them, understanding where they're coming from, what their interests are, what their motivations are, what they want to do, and what they want to accomplish. And then hopefully providing them a supportive, encouraging uh, guidance to help them achieve their goals. And this way, I feel like I'm, being a mentor in trying to help them achieve what they want to accomplish.
Is that something that's really important to you at this stage of your career?
Oh, it absolutely is. And, even when in my corporate career, I used to get invited out, um, especially at SMU, because I was an alum from SMU from my MBA program,
Oh,
and also on the advisory board there for the engineering school. And so I used to get invited there quite a lot. And so way back, as far back as the early 1990s and early 2000s, I used to go out and be a mentor at SMU to the younger folks, especially those in the engineering and business schools.
okay. So, how do you stay motivated and continue to innovate after such a long and successful career?
What motivates me is two things. One is fundamentally comes down to enjoying what I do. I enjoy what I do because I like the content of what I do, and also because I like engaging with the younger generation, engaging with them, hopefully mentoring them, motivating them, and being hopefully a role model for some of them. So that's kind of what keeps me going.
Yeah. What exciting trends or technologies are you most interested in right now as of the moment?
I think I won't surprise anybody, but when I say that one of the things that really interests me is obviously the role of AI, Gen AI, and the kind of impact it's going to have on business and also on our personal lives. That's number one. Number two, having been involved in computing, semiconductors, and that area for a long time, and optics as well, I'm very interested in seeing how quantum computing is going to evolve going forward. And both of these also relate to the evolution in the knowledge about the human brain and the neurology associated with that. And so that's something that interests me as well.
Do you have any experience investing in companies like that recently, or have you anything in specific that you're interested in that area?
Uh, well, I'm going to be launching a new course in the fall, and that's going to be looking at AI and applications of AI to IT and just more broadly into various vertical sectors. And I have been teaching a course with jointly with AT&T for the last 10 years, and last 5 years of those have been looking at applications of AI, Gen AI, and 5G to businesses within the general framework of what AT&T does. And so that's definitely an area I want to pursue more specifically. But beyond that, having experience in quantum mechanics and quantum physics and so on, I'm definitely interested also in quantum computing. But then again, both of these are somewhat related to the evolution of the human brain and how they may complement each other, especially when people are starting to talk about smart chips being put in human brains, which I saw an article this morning, and of course, Elon Musk has been doing that for some time. So Neuralink. So I think all of those things, especially interest me.
That's interesting. So, what's next for you in terms of research, teaching, or entrepreneurship in general?
Right. So for me, again, coming back to these three areas, following up on what's happening in these areas, doing research wherever I can in terms of AI applications. And so that's definitely one area, staying abreast of that. Developing new courses in these areas, right? So, and like I said, I'm launching a new course in the fall, applications of AI into IT and other areas, and strategy, innovation, entrepreneurship associated with that. And the third area is actually growing the program that I launched back in 2010, and it's a joint program between engineering and school of management. And this is the systems engineering and management. I'm trying to find ways to grow it even further than what it has been so far. So those are the three areas that I intend to pursue going forward.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have. Those are all the questions I have for today. Thank you so much, Mr. Shah, for
Sure.
meeting us.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.